Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Calgary, Alberta, Wednesday, July the 14th, and I'm happy to be here. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com, and this is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, and I'm just glad to be here. Having a little bit of trouble with my computer, it's just running a little bit slow here today, but I'll try to be able to bring up what I wanted to continue going through, which was adults surviving child abuse, life problems, and abuse. That's where we left off yesterday. So yeah, I'm glad to be here, glad to be able to do these shows. I just want to make sure everybody knows I'm not a professional counselor or therapist. I don't hold any professional certificates in those areas. I'm just a private citizen who pays to do my own blog talk shows, and I'm a survivor of child abuse, and that's really the reason why I wanted to be able to get some information out to people as I find information, because I'm continually researching. If I see something out there that's really good, and it's nice to be able to share it with people, and things that I think are really worth looking at. So that's why I do these shows, just to be one more voice out there to say that we need to stop child abuse. We need to, really work on changing this thing. And, as a survivor of child abuse, we know how serious this is. We know that, if we don't do something to help save children's lives and to help these children out here today who are being abused, really we can all hang our heads in shame and say, well, sorry, but we just couldn't do it. And I don't want to end up at the end of the road here in my life journey with that. I want to just be one more voice to try to get something done. So that's why I'm doing these shows. I actually stumbled across Blog Talk Radio back last November, and I was listening to Voices of Hope with Gail Crabtree, and she's on here on Blog Talk Radio. They have a Hope for Healing blog. It's a great website. She is a survivor of sexual assault, and I was listening to her show. She's an awesome lady, a dear friend, and I call her my good friend. And I was listening to her show, and I clicked on Create Your Own Show, and sure enough, within about 5 minutes, I had my own show. So that's what happened. I didn't, when I first started out doing these shows, I didn't know how many shows I would do, and I started out doing one show a week, and then I thought, well, I'll make it 2 shows a week, and before I knew it, I was on, 5 shows a week, and then it just went from there. I wasn't sure how long I'd even be doing it. It's back in especially December, January, I wasn't quite sure how long I'd be able to do it or how long I could afford to do it because I got to pay for this show. The thing is once I got going, I thought, there's so much information out there for survivors of child abuse, and so much information out there that we need to get out to people to stop and prevent child abuse. So I decided to do 2 different types of shows, and then I thought I'd include a third one just recently, a worldwide epidemic of child abuse, because I'm very much interested in the whole worldwide issue of child abuse, not just North America. I was actually more interested in the whole international side of things long before I was interested nationally. But I was sitting there thinking, okay, I know what it's like. I grew up in an abusive home in North America, and I know what it's like here for children here to in our country, in our part of the world. Why am I not doing something to get involved? So I was very very blessed to be able to get involved with Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and just volunteering, and it makes me feel good to be able to to do this and to be very proactive, right? Because instead of sitting back and just saying, oh, this is sad and it's unfortunate, and then going every day like that, just thinking, what are we going to do? I thought, what are we going to do? Is exactly right. Why are we not standing up and saying something about this? If I don't like what I see in this world, then I have to get off the couch and do something about it instead of just sitting around complaining about it. I'm going to have to start getting involved. So that's what happened, and that's why I'm doing these shows. So I'm not a professional counselor or therapist. I'm actually a part-time student in between courses at MRU in Calgary. I study human rights, child rights, and international community development and whatnot, and I can't afford to go right now, take the course, and so I am just in between courses. So I thought, well, I'll keep studying, and I'll just keep working to find information, and especially for survivors, because I know how hard it is to walk this daily walk. My healing journey began 3 years ago, and before that I was I was really fighting to die all the time, and I was thinking, I was never really comfortable in my own skin, and never really comfortable with who I was and what this life was about. And so 3 years ago, I thought, I decided to fight to live, and to fight to change this thing. And so it's been an amazing journey, I tell you that, and I really appreciate everyone who's been here with me the whole way. I have had a lot of support from people, and people that tune into my shows and stuff, and mainly my friends. I consider you my family, because you're there for me. No matter what, I could be having the worst day, and pop in and talk to you, and within minutes, I'm feeling so much better. So I thank you all so much for being here for me as a friend and as a supporter, but mainly as a friend, because that means everything to me. And so that's why I'm doing these shows, And you have to listen at your own discretion, because we can be triggered. Survivors of child abuse can be triggered, and that's why I always give the topic information of what I'm talking about, and I always give the resources and references to the material so that you can go and check it out. If it's something that you think, wow, this could trigger me, I don't think I better listen to the show, you have to turn it off. You have to do the right thing. You can always come back and listen another time when you're feeling stronger. You can always come back and listen to the archives. They'll be here. When you're having, if you're having a hard time and you're just feeling really down, or that you might not be able to cope with the information, you can make sure that you do turn it off, and get some help. Don't sit there by yourself and suffer. Get some help and reach out to someone. Make a phone call, crisis line if you have to, because there's people out there that do care. If you can't get a hold of me, and you can't get a hold of your supporters and your friends, call a crisis line, right? If anybody, just don't suffer in silence and on your own, right? That's a horrible place to be. We all know what that's like, as survivors of child abuse, right? So you have to listen at your own discretion, and my big thing is children under the age of 18. I ask that you have someone to okay it, that you can listen to this show. Reason being is I know I was 18 and I was pretty well grown up by then, but I'm doing this on purpose, and the reason being is because there are so many sick people out there who are trying to get a hold of children online, and they will do anything that they can to get a hold of you. And I just want to warn people, because so many times, if parents aren't looking out for children, they end up becoming victims of child sexual predators and, pedophiles and whatnot, and you do not want that. You do not want your innocence stolen. You do not want your life changed forever to be dealing with the horrors of being sexually assaulted by a child sexual predator. And so you have to be very, very careful what you're doing online, and you need to know how to keep yourself safe. There are ways that you can keep yourself safe, and that you can even if you know the information and you use it and you do keep yourself safe, you're still vulnerable. They are still out there, and they will still try to do anything they can to get a hold of you. So make sure you get the information on how to stay safe online. Have permission to listen to these types of shows, especially mine. There's a lot of adult material on here, and the topics of abuse are sensitive, very sensitive. And so, young people, really young people, I'm talking children, they might not understand what we're talking about, and then have a lot of questions. And if they don't know how to get the information, it could be upsetting. It could be scary. The topics of abuse are scary. I lived with it my whole life, so it's not scary for me. It's just part of my world. But for other people, and children who have not experienced abuse, it is a scary world for them, and I think that it can be hard to understand. So that's why, young people should have someone listen to the show with them, just to make sure it's something that you should be listening to, age appropriate and whatnot, right? So we'll get right on with the show here. If I can get my switchboard back up. My computer's running very slow, so I had some little bit of trouble just getting in here this morning, but that's all right. We'll just continue on. So I want to look at I want to finish looking at what we were talking about yesterday. This is from Adults Surviving Child Abuse. It's www.asca.org.au. And I didn't read to see if this was part of the ASCA here in North America. The ASCA here in North America is Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, a Morris Center program. But this website that I'm reading from is called Adults Surviving Child Abuse. .org.au. So I think it's a little different, but it might be sort of related somehow. I don't know. It's a great website, www.asca.org.au. All kinds of information on it. I just happened to run across it the other day, and I really liked what they had to say about life problems and abuse. And there's just some interesting, a different way to look at some of the stuff that adult survivors go through. And I just like what they had to say about it, so I want to continue on with that. Yesterday we were looking at, negative. This is Briere, BRIERE, 2006, identified 6 key areas in which child abuse affects psychological function in adult life. And 1 was negative pre-verbal assumptions and relational schemata. Number 2 was conditioned emotional responses to abuse-related stimuli. Number 3, implicit sensory memories of abuse. Number 4, narrative autobiographical memories of maltreatment. And then number 5, suppressed or deep cognitive structures involving abuse-related material. That's where we left off. And then 6, inadequately developed affect regulation skills. So we'll look at number 5, suppressed or deep cognitive structures involving abuse-related material. I mean, that sounds complicated, but once we start reading into it, you'll see instances of physical or sexual abuse are overwhelming to children. Children do not have the psychological capacity to understand abuse, nor do they have the resources to protect themselves. Trapped in a dangerous situation, children often respond to abuse with a last-ditch psychological defense. They suppress their knowledge of the abuse. As they grow, their knowledge of their abuse may remain split off from awareness, quote-unquote, split off. But it deeply shapes the survivor's thinking patterns and ways of relating to others. And, I talk to a lot of survivors and people who know about the whole splitting issue regarding like DID and whatnot, regarding adult survivor issues. And I need to learn a lot more about that because I don't have that split. I didn't split, and I don't know. I guess I'm not sure. I don't think I split because I have a few repressed memories, but I kind of cognitively remember pretty much every day that that something took place. You know what I mean? Now I don't know. There might be stuff there that I did split off from that was just too hard to deal with. I don't know, but I don't recognize it, and so I don't know a whole lot about it. It's very interesting, and we are going to do some shows on that eventually. Hopefully I have a really good friend, a person I love very much. She's a good friend of mine. She's in Australia, and she's looking towards coming on the show at some point to talk about DID and to talk about some of these issues because she understands it and has done a lot of work on it and works with people that actually have it. So she has a great understanding and knowledge base of DID. And that would be very helpful for me, you know what I mean, to learn more about it. And I think it would be helpful for other people. So I'll be sure and give everybody heads up when this is going to take place. But the whole idea of splitting off and splitting and whatnot, I don't know a whole lot about it, so I don't even know how to discuss it. But the thing is I know that I've talked to so many people who have that and who have dealt with that. Because I guess the trauma is just so intense, for children when the abuse is happening, that they actually split. They go on. Their mind actually has to leave the situation in order for them to be able to survive. So I guess what happens is at the point of the abuse when it's taking place, their mind goes somewhere else and splits off. So they don't then later on when they're adults have the connection to what actually happened to them unless they go back and actually be able to get some help to look at it, to be able to understand it. I have another friend. I have a lot of friends actually who have this DID and different splitting, issues with adult survivor issues, right? And so they try to explain it to me, and I'm sitting there just thinking, yeah, okay, I sort of get it, and I understand why a person would have to do that just to survive the assault, just to survive the actual abuse, right? So horrible. And so this is the thing. It says here, children do not have the psychological capacity to understand abuse. I know. I remember growing up and dealing with the abuse, and just my mind would just flip, completely flip. And even though it was something I was used to, because I grew up in this home. The abuse started long before I was born with all my siblings, right? So I just came in last. I was the last child born. I came into a huge mess. And so I grew up like that. It was normal. But the thing is when you're being attacked violently and viciously, whether it's verbally or physically, um, I can relate to that because I know even though I was used to it, it was something that I grew up around. It was still traumatic. You know what I mean? Because it hurts. First of all, physically, you know what I mean. When you're being beaten like that, it hurts. So obviously there's some pain involved there. But it also it attacks your psyche. It attacks your mind. You know what I mean? Because you're trying to survive. So it's very hard. And children who experience this, it's not right. No child should have to live like that. No child should live in fear and live in that kind of violence and that kind of complete destruction, right? I mean, and that's horrible, and that's why we have to change this, you know what I mean, for children today. And that's what, but if you're a survivor of that, that's why you have to get help. Because I never got any help, I didn't reach out, and I told a few people, but, I never really reached out. And when I actually started reaching out here about 8 months ago, I'd say, probably 8 or 9 months ago, to some group therapy. I did some not group therapy, but group support. I actually joined an adult survivors group support, and that was very helpful. Just to be able to talk to people who had experienced something similar to what I had experienced, and get some support that way, And you can join those things anonymously. That's what I really like about that. You have to sign up with your name, of course, and your email address and all that. Thing is once you're in the community, you can sign up your page as anonymous or a fake name, whatever. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Everybody there is trying to heal and trying to work through this traumatic stuff in their lives, right? And so they want everybody to heal too. And so you don't even have to use your real name in the chat rooms and in the group stuff, because it doesn't matter. Everybody's there for one purpose, and that's to be able to move forward in their healing journey, right? And I really like that, and I thought it was great. It helped me out a lot. And so that's just another way that people can get help, right? Besides maybe seeing a counselor or a therapist, if you think, well, the group support's not for me because I don't want to share openly with people what happened, then, a counselor, one-on-one, someone who can help you, right? Help us, right? It's so important that we get help and don't allow ourselves to just continue going further and further, away from our healing, right? We want to go further and further, a little, one step at a time, closer to our healing, right? We deserve to have a good life, you know what I mean? And as children, growing up abused, right? We're not often told that. I mean, possibly never. Abused children do not hear, oh yeah, you deserve a good life, but I'm gonna make yours miserable anyway. No, we're not told that growing up. You know what I mean? That we deserve to have a good life, that we do matter, we do count. We should really be entitled to everything that everybody else has, which is peace in our hearts and feeling good about ourselves and feeling confident about ourselves and able to go out and get and kind of chase after our dreams and set some goals. You know what I mean? We're not encouraged to do that. If you're abused as a child, unless you get some help at a very young age, which we didn't get any help, period, except for one family that helped me out, which I'd like to say they are in my book. And my book is available. It's my memoirs, A Life of Death, The Redemption. You can pick it up at Lulu. You can pick it up from my site here at Blog Talk Radio. Different places I've got it around. And all the proceeds are going to Dream Catchers for Abused Children. I don't want the money for that. I couldn't see paying my rent or buying groceries with that money. That book is should be out there, and the proceeds that are made from it should go to Dream Catchers for Abused Children, because they're the ones that saw my story, believed that it should be out there, really believed that what I had to say was very important, and they made it possible for my voice to be heard, the chains of silence to be broken, and they allowed my voice to come out to say, hey, we're here, all of us. I wasn't just speaking for myself, even though I dedicated the book to two of my brothers who went to their graves in silence and shame. But the whole thing is that book is really for all of the survivors out there to say, hey, here's one more voice out here saying, we're here, we do count, we do matter, we do deserve to have a good life, and, we did not deserve the abuse that we had to suffer, whatever kind it was. I don't care. Abuse is abuse, and it all hurts. And so, I just want to be one more voice out there, right? So that's why I hope people will get something out of that book if you do get it, and know that the proceeds are going to help stop child abuse. That makes me happy. And so, that's the whole issue. it's very, very hard. And I don't even know where I was going with that now. But anyway, that's all right. But the whole issue is when you're growing up abused like that, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible, and we can't allow ourselves to let that destroy us. And that was the main purpose behind the book, was to show people that, hey, we can move on, we can get help, right? And it might take a while. There's no guarantees that it's going to, a certain set time, like, oh, well, how come, I haven't healed and it's been a year, or you can't put time limitations on it. It takes as long as it takes, and you really have to work at it. It's not something that you can just not work at. It's like anything else in life. It's work, and it's a lot of work. And this is probably the toughest work a person will ever do. It's the toughest thing I've ever done, to actually sit down and allow myself to heal. Because it was much easier for me to sit around, as I was used to for 40 years, with the same attitudes, the same feelings about myself. I was very comfortable there because I understood it. I understood what it was like to fight to die. But when I changed that and I decided to start to fight to live, that was the biggest challenge I've ever had in my entire lifetime. Was to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to fight to live. How am I going to do this? Because no one had shown me how to live except for that one family. Oh, that's why I wanted to mention the book, because the book really details how this one family came into my life and intervened on my behalf at the age of 13 and a half, and my best friend, one of my best friends, and her parents. And they made such a huge impact in my life that, and they probably, I don't think, even had any idea. See, they knew about the abuse, but they probably had no idea what it meant to me at the time. Because when they came into my life, I was literally, if a psychologist had gotten a hold of me at that time, they would have definitely thought that, and I probably would have been diagnosed as seriously psychotic. You know what I mean? I had a lot of problems, a lot of mental issues, and a lot of emotional problems. And, just from being completely battered and abused all the time. So, and watching my family just in chaos and suffering all the time. And so, I thank that family, for stepping in on my behalf and showing me an example of what life should be about. And of course, I didn't follow that example until I grew older. But the thing is that it stayed with me. Even though I continued to do drugs and I continued to try to destroy my life, their words and the love that they showed me stayed with me, because it was the only real love I had ever experienced in my lifetime, was this one family who actually loved me unconditionally and said that they wished that I was their child. My parents were not saying that to me. My parents were saying, I wish you were dead. And when this family stepped in and said, I wish you were our child because we love you, that meant more to me than anyone will ever know. So I detailed that in the book, and I would hope that people will pick that book up and know that the proceeds are going to Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and to help stop this mess, you know what I mean, so we can help children, right? And so, yeah, it's incredibly hard, and I know. And so you have to reach out. You can't allow yourself to be destroyed. That's what happened with me. I was sitting on the couch 3 years ago, ready to self-injure and thinking that I should end it all, and of course I didn't want to commit suicide. My brother committed suicide, and I knew the pain that it caused the family. I knew the pain it caused me when he did that. So I thought, no, okay, I don't want to kill myself, but how am I going to live with this? How am I going to continue to live with this? I wanted to self-injure so I could show the world the pain in my heart. I never thought about writing a blog or going public with my story, or even getting some help, right? And as I was sitting there, I thought, who's gonna care? No one's going to care if I self-injure. They're just going to think I'm an idiot. They're going to be like, why would you do that to yourself? Or how that's just dumb. They would never be able to see the pain in my heart, because they would never be able to understand what I went through or what my family went through. And so I thought, okay, that's stupid. I guess I sat back on the couch and I thought, that allows my abusers to win if I do that. If I destroy myself, then my parents win the fight, and I go to my grave like my other brothers and the rest of my family members who never got their voice heard regarding the abuse they suffered in the home. I thought, no way. I'm fighting to live. I'm going to win this battle, and that's why I'm doing these shows. To sit there and just sit here with you guys, if you're survivors of child abuse, and say, we cannot allow that to destroy us. We cannot allow the abusers to win, whoever they were. They should not be allowed to win this fight. We win this fight by staying alive. by looking for that hope, and it takes a lot of courage to do that. It takes a lot of strength. It takes more strength than anybody will ever know, unless you've been there and you know, right? But other people wouldn't even understand what it takes, if they haven't been there, because you're coming from behind the 8 ball all the time. But the issue is that we deserve to have a good life and move on and learn how to enjoy this life. This life was not meant for us to sit here and suffer our whole entire life and feel bad about ourselves and take on what the abuser told us or did to us. What I did was I put all the abuse on a necklace around my neck. I thought, because I was wearing this necklace. I was wearing this necklace that my parents gave me from the time I was born. And on it was all the abuse, the physical abuse, the verbal abuse, the psychological abuse, the mental and emotional abuse was all there. And I was carrying this necklace around with me, and it was weighing pretty heavy. Well, 3 years ago, I took that necklace off and I threw it away. And I said, I don't have to wear that. I don't have to wear that necklace. I am none of those things that my parents said, and I didn't deserve the abuse that I went through. And I'm throwing that necklace away once and for all. I'm not picking it up ever again because I smashed it on the ground, and it doesn't belong to me. That's how I looked at it, so that I could say, you know what? I don't have to live under those words, under those terms, and under those feelings, because I'm a good person. And I started to really look within myself, and I said, people who have been abused, we've been told the worst things and made to feel so bad. And I thought, I do count, I do matter, and I did not deserve to be treated like that. And no one does. And so, I became very serious with myself and started to say, hey, I deserve to have a good life. And I don't have to allow that abuse to destroy me. I can learn to work through it. You know what I mean? So it's not like I don't acknowledge the abuse. That's what I did, was I acknowledged it, and then acknowledged the fact that what had happened to me was wrong, and then acknowledged the fact that I needed to develop a different picture of who I was than the one that my parents had painted for me on the inside of me. As I could see this wounded, ugly, abused child inside of me, and she was screaming and raging, and she was mad. And I thought, man, I need to help that child. So I started to nurture myself, you know what I mean, and really start self-nurturing, and that helped me a lot. I would give myself hugs. I was on my own. I was by myself, and I would spend a lot of time holding my own hand. I didn't have anybody's hand to hold, so I started holding my own hand, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to hold my own hand, because I deserve that. I deserve some love in my life. I have to learn how to love myself, you know what I mean? So I didn't know how to love myself, and so I had to learn how to do that. And, this is the whole thing. And if you can't do it on your own, then you have to get some help, whether it's a counselor, therapist, whoever, group support, a good friend, if you have someone that you can trust, that for sure you can trust, and they're there for you no matter what. To get some of that good stuff, you know what I mean? Because we deserve it. We really do. And, I'm so happy to be able to say, 3 years later, I feel so much better than I did. You know what I mean? I still have issues, and I'm still working through things. And life is like that. Things will happen. But overall, I have so many more better days than bad days, and that's what's really cool about it. Because it used to be the other way around. I'd have so many more bad days than good days. That's why I was always down and always, feeling quite depressed about the whole thing, and just hurting inside. And now I have way more good days than bad days. So that's why I say just keep holding on and keep reaching out. We'll finish the rest of this week, and we'll look at it again tomorrow. I want to look at the rest of the number 6, inadequately developed affect regulation skills. We'll look at that tomorrow. So I hope you all have a great day. Thanks very much for tuning in and being here with me. I have about a minute left. I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, volunteer position, which I love very much. You can check out our website. It's great for survivors. I love that website. As soon as I saw it, I started crying. I thought, oh my God, look at this. This is awesome. www.dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com. It's great for survivors, but it's also good for parents. Parents, if you're having a hard time coping and you don't want to abuse your children, there's all kinds of information on there on how to get help for parents who might think, well, I don't want to treat my kids like this. How am I going to get help, right? It's good for people to learn the signs and symptoms of abuse so you can protect the children in your life. This is the whole issue. We need to stop this, right? So let's all, work towards another day. You know what I mean? And, keep that hope alive, right? And if you need something, get a hold of me on Blog Talk Radio, or you can get a hold of me Facebook and various places like that. And I generally try to get back to people same day. You're all very much important to me, and I thank you very much for being here. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you at night. I've got a couple of shows on tonight. Elizabeth Brawley, from Southern Regional Director from Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and I will be on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio tonight, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then my own show after that. So I'll be back around. So you guys take care of yourselves and have a really great day. And remember, I'm just keeping you all in my heart. Talk to you later.